Growing up, I always loved Pokemon, but I always thought the games were a little bit too forgiving in terms of difficulty. I've known about and wanted to do a Nuzlocke of a ROM hack for quite a while now, but I've just never gotten around to it. Until now. So, I decided to start with Pokémon Renegade Platinum. Generation 4 is my first generation that I played back with my childhood buddies, and also, why not start with a ROM hack that just hates you? If you clicked on this video, I'm sure I don't have to explain how a Nuzlocke works, but for those of you that might not know, all you need to know about this is that I can't use any items in battle, I can only catch the first Pokemon encounter on every route, and if a Pokemon faints, it is considered dead and it can't be used anymore. I was going to do the nicknames part, but honestly, I kind of just forgot about that, so no nicknames this time around. I've watched the big Nuzlocke creators who make this stuff look both brutal and fun in the insane ROM hacks that they play. I'm looking at you, run and bun masochists. So I wanted to try my hand at it too and do my best to follow in their footsteps. This is Pokemon Renegade Platinum, and this is the story of my very first attempt. After beating Barry, we take a quick trip over to Lake Verity, only to remember that, hey, we don't actually have any Pokeballs. So we head to Sand Gem Town instead. We get harassed by Dawn, talk to Rowan who gives us our Pokedex, get asked if we can tell the difference between orange and blue roofs. If you understand this reference, I love you. Get told by Dawn that we're an awful child and shouldn't make our mom worry about us by not coming home like our father never did after going out to get some milk. So we go home, tell our mom, get asked to do some courier service by Barry's mom, take our pet Eevee and add it to our team, go all the way back to Sand Gem Town, fight Dawn, beat her, and finally get some Pokeballs of our own. After which we immediately run to Route 201 to get our first encounter, a Bidoof. Then to Lake Verity to pick up a Psyduck, find our second 10% chance spawn Nidoran, which we couldn't catch earlier because we didn't have access to Pokeballs yet, make our way back to Route 202 where we pick up a Rattata, beat up some preschoolers for their lunch money, throw hands with a rather annoying Burmy.
The way he gets to double protect, what type of is he fighting? It's fighting. Brother, what are you trying to prove here? Can you stop?
And finally land in Jubilife City. We meet up with Dawn and a man named The Looker, which could be taken a variety of different ways, to say the least. Find Barry educating himself at the local preschool where he probably belongs. Then we catch a wild Bidoof on our way to the Ravaged Path. We get our best encounter yet being a Zubat inside of the cave, and then do a little bit of battle prep before our first rival fight with Barry. Barry only uses 3 Pokemon in this fight, and while I could definitely be using a full team of 6 at this point, I decided to up the challenge a little bit by matching his 3. His team consists of a Starly, a Munchlax, and a Turtwig, while I decided to bring Bidoof, Zubat, and Piplup. He leads with Starly and I lead with Bidoof, which I plan to build up rollout stacks on in preparation for his Munchlax that he'd be sending out afterwards. Ultimately, I decided that the best choice was to just let Bidoof do as much damage as it could with his rollouts and then die to the Munchlax, which ends up being how things played out.
Okay. That's fine. Did its job.
We get Munchlax into the red with Piplup and swap in Zubat to finish it off, then clean up the incoming Turtwig with its type advantage.
Nice crit, dude. Nice. Huge.
Zubat just so happens to crit the Turtwig as well, which is kind of just salt in the wound at that point, but I found it kind of funny. I might have been able to avoid a death here, but I wasn't really planning on using Bidoof or Babero much down the road anyways, so I thought this was the best choice. This nets us our first major win of the run and unlocks a handful of new encounters as well. We have a minor Shinx jump scare when we almost lose our Zubat to a Spark, to which Zubat hits them with the, "Let me take off my weighted wing braces."
We don't flinch because of our focus. We get a crit. Bro, Zubat is carrying us right now. Dude, relax. Simmer down there, man. He's dead.
We pick up a Geodude inside of Orberg Gate, receive Rock Smash from the local hiker. Zubat continues to be an absolute menace to society to the point that I have to double check if he's holding my scope lens. Spoiler alert, she isn't. And then finally arrive in Orberg. We talk to Barry outside at the gym, who says that Roark is off mining coal again and we should probably go and try and find him. Find one of my favorite evolution lines being Aaron, and run into an issue, you could call it, when talking to Roark.
Looks like we'll be getting Vaporeon, guys.
Bro, he just kept yapping. I didn't know he was giving me a evolution stone. So now that we're stuck with Vaporeon for our evolution, we head back to the gym and start our challenge. Things go off pretty much without a hitch until...
You'll love to see it, man.
Honestly, that death could have been pretty easily avoided. I just didn't play around the crits. We evolve Piplup into Prinplup, go slightly north of Orbur to catch a Rhydon, and then discover 2 reporters inside of the Poké Center. In Renegade Platinum, there are reporters sprinkled throughout the game's Poké Centers that allow you to challenge them. If you win, you get all the starter Pokemon from another region. This is huge for us, since starter Pokemon's base stats are well above average for this point in the game. We beat these 2 and choose to go with Trico for the upcoming gym. In hindsight, Mudkip was probably the best choice here, but I already had a water type on my team with Prinplup and I wanted more type coverage, since Budew isn't really the greatest. That being said, I did have a plan to use it in this upcoming fight, so it does join us for this battle. We walk up to Roark, and the first gym leader battle is officially underway.
This is where we make it or break it.
Grovyle dukes it out with Nosepass and takes it out by spamming Mega Drain. Rhyhorn bulldozes the Geodude to death. Vaporeon drowns out the Onix with Water Pulses, but then his Cranidos comes out. At this point, I didn't really have a solid switch I could go into with most of the rest of my team being weak to Rock-type moves, so I ultimately decided to have Rhyhorn sack itself to get a clean switch. With a tempo reset, we bring out Grovyle, who once again just spams Mega Drain to take out the Cranidos, getting scary-faced in the process. Larvitar comes out and protects on its first turn to allow its Flame Orb to activate its Guts ability. A few turns later, and I make my first real mistake of this run.
How are you faster than me? I'm not minus speed. I mean, like, I'm dead no matter what I switch into this.
Something about this is why you, as a Nuzlocker, are losing most of your runs in your Nuzlocks. Maybe you're eating a chicken sandwich. You know, the usual suspects. But with every loss comes a lesson, and surely this won't happen again in the future. Right, guys? I send out Budew to deal with this monster of a Pokemon. Budew always outspeeds Larvitar, and it knows Worry Seed. Worry Seed replaces the target's ability with Insomnia, which would not only take away the attack buff that Larvitar is getting from Guts, but also debuff its attack due to the burn it has. I thought this strategy was pretty cool, even though it didn't really end up mattering. Roark's last Pokemon Bonsly comes out, so we switch in Prinplup and just spam Bubble to earn our first gym badge.
Man, whatever.
After beating Roark, we head back to Jubilife to head north now that we can use Rock Smash. The road is unfortunately blocked by some admittedly goofy-looking individuals, which Rowan refers to as sorry specimens, which we team up with Dawn to take down with ease in our first double battle. Some random guy tries to get us to dress up our Pokemon in costumes.
I would pass on that one, dude. That's unfortunate. I didn't think you were a real human being. I'm gonna be honest, I thought she said, "May I please touch you for a battle?"
We get sidestepped by a young whippersnapper into a battle that I didn't want to do, and pick up a Magnemite as our next encounter. We arrive in Floroma Town and battle 2 new reporters to pick up and intimidate Totodile. We beat 2 more suspicious spacemen who are harassing some poor old guy for his honey supply, which we promptly buy and use to catch a Cherubi. We roll our luck on a different honey tree in hopes of getting a Heracross, but unfortunately get stuck with a Combee. A male Combee. We make our way to the Valley Windworks and use the key that we got from the Honey Thieves earlier to sneak inside, before doing a bit of final prep before Team Galactic Commander Mars.
Hello. Alright, cool.
I lead with Magnemite as it absolutely walls the opposing Zubat and takes it out with a single Charge Beam. She brings out Yanma, which protects to get a +1 speed with its Speed Boost ability next. Type-wise, Yanma wouldn't usually be able to do much to Magnemite, but because it has Sonic Boom, which always deals exactly 20 damage, we can't hang around forever for free. Eventually, we swap to Aaron, who finishes it off with a Rock Tomb, then out comes Bronzor. We get hit with both a Hypnosis and a Confuse Ray on the Vaporeon, and after painstakingly hitting ourselves in our sleep for 5 to 6 turns, I switched to Prinplup to finish off the job with Bubble Beam. Lastly comes Purugly, Mars' strongest Pokemon. Nothing you can have at this point in the game can outspeed this ironically fat cat without stat boosts or reductions, and considering how bulky it is and how hard it can hit, it makes it quite scary. I swapped to Croconaw to get an Intimidate off and start chipping away at it, and eventually pivot to Prinplup to finish the cat off with a very lucky and well-timed Bubble Beam critical hit.
I got the second thing. Awesome.
We rescue the stinky scientist that Team Galactic was keeping captive. Hey, listen, man, it's his daughter's words, not mine. Before heading back to Jubilife to beat another 2 reporters to pick up a Charmander. We eventually find ourselves in Eterna Forest and meet Cheryl, who asks to test our strength. I was going to show every major fight, but honestly, nobody even came close to dying in this fight, so I'm not going to bother with this one. We travel as a duo to the end of the forest, but before I leave, I head to the old chateau to pick up the guaranteed Rotom encounter. Rotom is one of the most versatile Pokemon in the game in my opinion, and its typing of Electric Ghost with the Levitate ability is extremely good. We arrive in Eterna City, head a little bit to the right to pick up a Natu as our next encounter. I snatch a Cleffa from Mount Coronet, and then head all the way north to the blizzardy snowfields to find Eterna City's gym leader. We pick up a Snover on the way there, but it doesn't even have the Snow Warning ability, so I forget about it about 5 seconds after I caught it. We nearly lose our Golbat to a Crush Claw Vigoroth plus Hail combo, then head all the way back past Eterna City to Orberg to pick up a bunch of different fossils. I decided to go with Aerodactyl since it's an insanely fast Pokemon with pretty good offensive stats as well, and it's also flying rock type. With a little bit of team building and strategy afterwards, we're ready to take on our second gym leader, Gardenia. We lead with Larion to try to get the Stealth Rocks off, but end up getting Teeter Dance entranced into confusion. Luckily, we snap out of it turn 1 after nearly getting one-shot by a super effective Grass Knot, but the work there is already done. Stealth Rocks is minus 12.5% HP off of every one of Gardenia's Pokemon from here on out, so it's super nice to get off. After painstakingly battling through both Paralysis and Confusion on Charmeleon even after using our Cherry Berry, we get it in the red and swap to Xatu to finish it off. Tangela comes out next, which we just one-shot with a critical hit Air Slash even through its Koba Berry, which reduces super effective flying type moves. Breloom comes out next, and if you guessed we one-shot this with yet another Air Slash, you'd be right. Cherrim comes out next, which we tank a Sunny Day boosted Weather Ball for and kill with another Air Slash, which brings out the ace of Gardenia's team, Roserade. We swap to Vaporeon to bait in a Magical Leaf, then pivot again into Golbat for the Quad Resist, which is basically as free of a switch as you can get. We both exchange super effective blows with Wing Attack and Extra Sensory, and then I swap to Aerodactyl to finish off the beautiful bouquet with another Wing Attack. Last up is Scrotal, which we slam our Rocky Wings into once again, swapping to Vaporeon to cleanse ourselves of the Leech Seeds, then landing the finishing blow with a critical hit Aurora Beam, which earned us our second gym badge.
It's just that easy, guys. It's just that easy.
We get a nice little Team Rocket jump scare outside of the what is this place for again? What is your purpose? But in a literal sense.
You know, you love to see it. But don't really care. Yeah, I guess that might have been nice to swap out of.
Rotom has 6, yes you heard me right, 6 different forms you can switch between anytime you want outside of battle. Each one changes the types while keeping the electric typing, while also gaining a signature move of that type. I chose to go with Rotom Fan since flying electric with the motor drive ability is just so damn good. After that, and a little bit of battle prep, we take on Commander Jupiter at the top of the building.
Alright, bro. I got my cereal, my Kashi Go Lean. I am ready.
She leads with Golbat, so I decide to lead with Magnemite, the staller of all things purple and bat-like. We take that with 2 Charge Beams after beating ourselves up a little bit first. Sableye comes in, so we swap to Pharaoh on the incoming Fake-Out, which we surprisingly one-shot with a Drill Peck on the next turn. Tangela comes in next, which we swap to our new Rotom for, and set up a substitute to avoid the incoming Sleep Powder. We send a super effective Air Slash its way, which takes it out in 1 hit, which then brings out Skuntank next. We still have our substitute up, so we get a couple of hits in for free until it breaks our substitute with a critical hit. We're still faster at this point, and we've done enough damage to threaten for a kill, but we need to waste a turn since we can't use Air Slash twice in a row due to Torment. We substitute again just in case it crits, which it actually does end up critting, then finish off the Smelly Beast with another Air Slash to complete the fight death-free. We pick up a Porygon that was left up here after we free up a slot, and then accept an egg from Cynthia near the bike shop. God, I wish Cynthia would offer me her actual egg. We head to Wayward Cave next in hopes of getting a Gibble, and lo and behold, RNG blesses us once more. It's not quite free to capture, however, as it does know Dragon Rage, which is always 40 damage, and at this point that will two-shot 2/3 of my Pokemon if I'm not careful.
Nothing I have can actually tank 2 Dragon Rages. That's insane.
We eventually catch the pseudo-legendary baby and immediately evolve it into Gabite and add it to the team. After that, we head back into Wayward Cave because there's some girl named Mira there waiting for us. Not really sure what's up with her or what her vibe is, though.
Oh, that's not very nice. I guess to be fair, she was alone in the cave and some random dude walks up and is like, hey, wanna battle?
This fight was actually a lot harder than I was expecting it to be. She leads Togetic and I lead Xatu because I want to set up a light screen. We swap to Magnemite afterwards, but get unlucky and get hit with a critical hit Dazzling Gleam, which does about 2/3 of our HP. We're kind of just forced to risk the crit on the next turn, but luckily we knock out the Togetic with a Discharge. Honder comes out next, which we pivot to Fearow on the incoming Shadow Ball for, and then retaliate with Assurance. It starts setting up double teams, however we came prepared for this by teaching Fearow Aerial Ace, which can't miss. Porygon 2 comes out next, which we go to Rotom for on the incoming Charge Beam for a free speed boost. We don't really have a solid counter to this thing, and it's also incredibly bulky, so we're forced to hope that we don't get crit while we throw Air Slashes at it and hope for some flinches. Luckily, the second Air Slash we get a flinch, and the third one takes it out entirely. Lastly comes out Kadabra, which is a very scary Pokemon in this fight. I believe it's holding a Life Orb and has the ability Magic Guard, which negates the HP loss that Life Orb is supposed to debuff you with. So this thing hits extremely hard and is also quite fast. I pivot to Xatu since it's the only thing that can really take hits from this monster, nearly dying in the process as I set up another light screen. I swap to Fearow to hit it with a super effective Assurance, which is enough to one-shot the frail Psychic type, winning us the battle.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. Didn't have to sack anybody.
After beating Mira, she asks if we can go with her to find something deep in the cave or something. I honestly wasn't really paying attention at this point since it was 3 AM, but we go with her anyways. We make it to the end of the cave with Mira and get some Dazzling Gleam TMs and evolve our Golbat into Crobat after some friendship grinding. We had to go through Mount Cornets to go to the next area, but before we can do so, we're stopped by Dawn for our next battle. She leads with Piloswine, so I lead Xatu in order to set up a Reflect. After that, we pivot into Feraligatr for a free kill with Aqua Tail, which luckily doesn't miss. That brings out Clefable, who we swap to Crobat for, but we unfortunately get Thunder Waved on the switch in, leaving us paralyzed. Crobat, being the goat that she is, doesn't give a damn about paralysis and Poison Fangs right through the pain, landing a crit in the process and one-shotting the Clefable. Monferno comes out next, which tries to fake out us, but due to Crobat's inner focus, we can't be flinched. We do risk the crit on the incoming Flamethrower, but we break through the paralysis for a third time in a row to land the killing blow with a Wing Attack. This just leaves Lopunny left, which we pivot to Feraligatr for to get an Intimidate off, and then into Xatu, who unfortunately gets crit by a Jump Kick and nearly dies. We risk the crit again afterwards on the Dizzy Punch to get a Psychic off, leaving Lopunny in the red, and then switch to Feraligatr in order to Aqua Jet it to get the win. We run into Cyrus inside of Mount Cornet, who we don't really listen to because who listens to crazy people anyways? We catch a city on route... A city? We catch a skitty on route something something, and then spend 4 whole hours prepping for this next upcoming fight. This is the first fight in the game that genuinely scared me because in my eyes, this was the major difficulty spike and a big skill check. Aaron's team is absolutely terrifying because it's basically just his Elite Four team with nerfed levels. His Pokemon get most of the same items, they have the exact same move pools, the whole package. I was legitimately quivering throughout probably half the fight.
That's some good encounters. Show me your bugs, man. Show me your bugs.
Aaron leads with Dustox and I lead with Graveler. I need to get Stealth Rocks off in this fight in order to stand a fighting chance, and that's exactly what Graveler's here to do. My Stony Goat gets those rocks out, getting toxic in the process, but I don't really care because that's all he was here to do anyways. I swap into Aerodactyl on the Protect turn and then drop a dump truck of rocks on its head. Scissor comes out and we go to Rotom on the incoming Bullet Punch, but we miss our first Will-O-Wisp as Scissor goes for a Swords Dance.
We Will-O-Wisp again as the Scissor gets a second Swords Dance off, and it becomes a now or never type of time. We Air Slash and hope for a flinch, but unfortunately we don't get it, as we take the resisted X Scissor and nearly die in the process. We Air Slash one more time and finally finish off the +4 attack Scissor. Drapion comes out next and we go to Crobat on the Cross Poison. Night Slash Scope Lens Sniper Boosted Crit would definitely kill Crobat from here, so I decided to go to Clefable next and then directly into Graveler. Drapion goes for a Swords Dance as we hit it with a Bulldoze, doing more than half of its HP in one hit. I read the switch as the AI now sees itself as slower than me and dying to me before it can get anything off, and go to Clefable as Aaron goes to Beautifly. I go to Crobat on the Air Slash, which would kill us if it crit, but luckily we outspeed it and kill it the following turn with a Wing Attack. Venomoth comes in next, so we go Aerodactyl on the incoming Psychic as it's the only Pokemon left that can outspeed and potentially kill with Rock Slide. Luckily we hit the range and Venomoth goes down clean. All that's left is the quarter HP Drapion, but my only safe switch is Graveler, who without a Bulldoze speed drop is slower than the Drapion. The only way to kill this Drapion without losing anybody more important was to unfortunately let Graveler die here, and then get a clean switch into Aerodactyl who can finish the Scorpion off. All things considered, a single death for Aaron that I honestly won't miss too much was way better than what I was expecting to do in this fight. There's actually nothing standing between you and Hearthome City's gym leader once you arrive, which is actually a pretty nice breath of fresh air, not having to go and do a bunch of silly side quests that I honestly don't care about. So, after a quick 20-minute team building session, we challenge Fantina. You'd think that being the third gym leader we faced at this point, Fantina would pose somewhat of a challenge, right? Well, you'd be wrong. Fantina was actually by far the easiest fight that we've had so far, gym leader wise, and it's all thanks to setup strats. The first 5 turns on both sides are spent with setting up a sweeper Pokemon. Fantina sets up Calm Minds on her Drifblim to baton pass off to Mismagius, while I set up a Light Screen with Xatu, and an Agility plus Swords Dance combo on for Alligator. After setting up, we one-shot every single one of Fantina's Pokemon without her ever getting a chance to do anything. It was a straight-up Gator massacre. I wish I could say that more happened in this fight, but alas, sometimes you just have to fight fire with fire.
Like the easiest fight of the game so far.
We grab our third gym badge from Fantina and immediately run into Barry as we push on forward, putting us in our next rival fight. He leads with Staravia, so I lead with Rotom, and we take out the bird with a single discharge. Grottle comes out next, which we stay in on to Will-O-Wisp it, and then switch to Aerodactyl on its Protect turn. We hit it with a Rock Slide, but it's not enough to kill in 2 hits after getting Leech Seeded again, so we swap into Crobat to shake the seeds once again, then finish it off with a Wing Attack. Snorlax comes out next, so we go to Xatu, but get yawned on our switch in. We don't really care, however, as all Xatu is here to do is set up a Light Clay boosted Reflect, so it's free to take a snooze afterwards. We spend the next 4 turns dealing with switching on a Yawn, but eventually Gabite takes out the Snorlax with a Dragon Claw. Barry's last Pokemon is Heracross, which we switch to Crobat for on the Brick Break, then finish it off with 2 consecutive Wing Attacks, winning us the fight.
Just like that, it's that easy.
We encounter a Staravia on whatever the next route is. I honestly am not keeping track at this point, but we unfortunately don't catch this one due to one-shotting it from full HP with a Scald. We slather a tree with some honey by the mansion to pick up a Tangela, and then painstakingly go through a bunch of Team Galactic battles inside of the mansion. Once finished, we find Commander Saturn keeping this old guy hostage, and forces him to use his Pokemon against us in a double battle with Barry. Man, Pokemon really likes keeping old people hostage, huh? This fight is a rather long one, so I'm going to gloss over all the non-eventful parts. Bronzong goes down to Snorlax's Body Slam. We have an I didn't check the movesets moment with Octillery.
Nothing. I forgot you have Flamethrower. And it's sunny. I might have just killed my Hero's Rage. Shit, I'm stupid.
Octillery gets Body Slammed by the Snorlax. Wigglytuff goes down to Brick Break. Espeon to a Bug Bite. Honestly, I brought Cherrim here just to do as much damage as it could and then be a sack switch if need be, so I'm pretty okay with this death. We revenge kill it with an Air Slash from Rotom, and then Grottle finishes off the Raichu with a Seed Bomb. This was actually a pretty difficult fight, and I almost lost 3 Mons instead of just the 1 Cherrim, so I'm pretty happy to escape by with just the Cherrim loss here.
I was gonna have to sack something. That was a close one, actually.
Our next encounters are a Pichu, Duskull, Apom, and Pineco, all of which I'm pretty happy with. Eventually we make it through to Veilstone City, where now that we have access to the department store, I do an absolute boatload of evolutions.
We get stopped by Dawn in front of the gym, which I honestly thought was going to be a battle that I didn't remember to plan for, but thankfully it wasn't. And then we start going through the gym trainers.
Ice Puncher. I see. It's quite awesome being out there.
Thankfully, this is the only turn my brain off near death that I have, and I start the challenge with the 4th gym leader, Maylene. I lead with Togekiss to lock the Medicham into Ice Punch, which allows us to switch into Feraligatr and run the same setup strat that we did with Fantina. The only issue with this plan is getting frozen on the Ice Punch.
It's fine. It's kind of unfortunate. That's why I gave it to Lumberry.
Of course we gave Feraligatr a Lumberry for that. But we do need to not get frozen a second time during the rest of our setup. Luckily we don't get frozen for the rest of our setup turns, and we sweep Maylene's Medicham and Machamp with ease. But next up comes Toxicroak, which we can't just Aqua Tail for since it has the Dry Skin ability. Night Slash is our only other offensive move here, which it resists with its fighting type. The calculations I ran gave us about a 50-50 chance to kill it from this range, as well as our odds of dying if we miss that range.
We survive, though.
We're always dead to a crit, but we finish the frog off with another Night Slash. We're forced to switch out on the Infernape as it has Mach Punch, so we go into Gabite to hit it with our Rough Skin ability before winning yet another 50-50 to survive the incoming close combat, then finish it off with an Earthquake. We go into Rotom next, who misses its first Will-O-Wisp as per usual, but hits the second. We risk the crit again to do a little bit of damage with Discharge before going into Crobat to duke it out. We risk yet another crit to tank the Flash Cannon and finish off the Lucario with a second Wing Attack. Last up is Gallade, but my team is in extremely poor condition at this point. Golduck comes out as it takes all of Gallade's moves fairly well, but we miss our Aqua Tail as it sets up a Reflect. I get to spam Brick Break until it decides to stop spamming screens, as we finish the fight with 3 Aqua Tails in a row, earning us our 4th gym badge.
Holy shit, I should not have gotten out of that with 0 deaths. That's dumb. How many luck encounters did we have? We survived on 2, 8, 8, and 2 HP. No worries. Not close. Not close at all, by the way.
We pick up a Houndour, Trapinch, and Nidorino as our next encounters before smashing our way through the grunts guarding the warehouse, which we unfortunately can't actually progress through yet. We pick up the strongest Pokemon that we have so far and might ever get in this run with a Guts Adamant Swellow right before Pastoria City.
Attack Guts. Oh boy.
Then run through the swamps to get Crasher Wake to come back to his gym. Barry wants to test our strength before that, however, so it's time for the next rival fight. We set up Stealth Rocks with Fortress as Staraptor close combats us, then tank a critical hit like an absolute mad lad to set up Toxic Spikes. I did want to get 2 layers off here, but because of the crit, 1 layer will have to do. We go into Crobat, who nearly takes out the -3 defense Staraptor with a Poison Fang, who then finishes itself off with Recoil from Takedown. Snorlax comes in, so we encore it on the resisted Crunch with Togekiss, then finish it off with 2 Dazzling Gleams after we get our own crit. Arcanine comes in next, which I calculated being able to take the incoming Thunder Fang, but
We're not, okay.
So what ended up happening here, which is entirely my own fault, was that I somehow ended up putting Togekiss's special defense stat in the defense slot stat of my calculator, thus leading me to believe that it was bulkier than it actually was. We still would have only survived on a pinch of HP, but it was still supposed to be survivable. This death sucks a lot because Togekiss is an extremely good Pokemon from what I saw, and we barely even got to use it. We revenge kill with Swellow next turn with a U-turn, and go into Rotom, which brings out Torterra. Still dwelling on Togekiss's death, I end up trolling myself a little bit by trying to burn the Poison Turtle, and then kill it with a single Air Slash the next turn. Azumarill comes out, which we just Thunderbolt, and tank a Mega Horn to Air Slash the Heracross, which even kills through another Cobra Berry.
That still kills, hey? Holy shit. Yo, I griefed with Togekiss dying there, but it is what it is. His Golbat knows Giga Drain? Damn, that doesn't kill? Holy shit.
We make it to Wake, which I had no doubt we'd be able to absolutely crush. Wake's gym is set in permanent rain in Renegade Platinum, which is a problem since multiple of his Pokemon have Swift Swim. We negate this by leading with Houndoom, who is faster than Quagsire, and set up the Sun instead. Not only does this get rid of Swift Swim and the water move damage boost, but actually weakens water moves as well. We go into Crobat on the incoming Earthquake because the AI now sees its water moves as doing less damage than the EQ, and take it out with 2 Giga Drains. Gyarados comes in next, which we taunt to prevent Dragon Dance setup, do some chip damage with a Bomb of Snow, then swap to Rotom to finish it off with a Thunderbolt.
Why would you Ice Fang the Ice type? High? I mean, like, it's fine, but like...
Sharpedo comes out next, and we don't really have a solid answer to this thing anymore, so I'm just going to let this next sequence play out in its entirety.
Burn or... Okay, or you can just not press up the time while you press up, no worries. Okay, we're running out of... We're very rapidly running out of options here. Oh. Clutch miss. Clutch miss. Gives us more HP to work with.
Without the Muddy Water accuracy drop, there was a 100% chance that the run was in some serious jeopardy, as Sharpedo is faster than any and everyone on my team at that point. Poliwrath comes out, which we kill with a Giga Drain and Grass Knot combo, which brings out Floatzel. Floatzel only has physical moves in this game and is holding a Life Orb, so the only out here, since it's still so fast even without Swift Swim, was to pivot between Houndoom and Roserade to get Intimidates off in hopes that the rest of my team could eventually deal with it. This ultimately leads to having to sack Houndoom, however, which really sucks since I believe at the time that this was my only fire type. Once we get 2 Intimidates off, we swap to Crobat, who finishes off the Floatzel with 2 Giga Drains. Last up is Ludicolo, who tries to fake us out, but because of inner focus we can't be flinched, and we double Poison Fang the Dancing Duck. Ludicolo a duck? A lily pad? A lily duck thing? We grab our 5th gym badge, and then Team Galactic commits some literal acts of terrorism at the nearby lake by setting off a bomb, and Cynthia gives us some medication for the Psyducks blocking our path on Route 210. We clear them out and make our way to Celestic Town, where we're stopped by Dawn for another battle. This fight's planning was pretty rough to say the least, and some of the solutions that I came up with weren't even guaranteed to work. We lead with Crobat, who needs to hit a range on the Alakazam with X-Scissor in order to kill it. Luckily we hit our range, which brings out Jolteon. We go to Rotom on the incoming Thunder, which actually misses at first and gives us a free turn of no damage since it doesn't actually see our Motor Drive ability yet. We go into Charizard next, who gets Thunder Wave, but we're packing a Cherry Berry Juice Box, so it's A-okay, and then we take out the Evolution with an EQ after burn damage. Mamoswine comes out next, so we pivot to Empoleon to take the incoming Stone Edge, then Fortress to set up Stealth Rocks and 2 layers of Toxic Spikes.
That was huge. Okay. That mattered 100%.
Infernape comes in, which we go to Crobat for on the incoming CC, then take it out with a single wing attack. Lopunny comes out next, and, well,
it has to be Flygon in order to make something. Or an Ice Punch, I guess. And I got... Yeah, tell me more, dude. I think we just lose.
With Flygon frozen, we're forced to switch into Charizard on another Ice Punch. We get off a Flamethrower to do as much damage as we can, but are ultimately killed by another Ice Punch. Crobat comes in and takes it out with 2 wing attacks, which only leaves Clefable left.
Yeah, I have no outs. I have to tank a Psychic. Okay. On my life, do not get paralyzed here. Alright, cool.
We arrive in Celestic Town just in time for another major fight, the first Cyrus encounter. He leads with Crobat, so I lead Fortress for some setup shenanigans with Stealth Rock, then go into Golduck, who one-shots the bat with a Psychic. Honchkrow comes in next, so we go to Rotom on the Brave Bird, then retaliate with a single Thunderbolt. Weavile is next, so we go for Alligator on the Ice Shard to intimidate it, then kill with 2 Aqua Tails. Lastly is Magnezone, which we just go to Rotom for to burn, and then Flygon to finish it off with an EQ. We catch up on encounters, namely being a Kangaskhan that I missed in the Safari Zone, a plus speed Heracross, a Krabby, a Horsea, and a Dodrio. After Cyrus, we're told somebody is looking for us in this weird game show corner of the map, so we head on over and find none other than Unova Region's Elite Four member Caitlyn and her butler. Boyfriend? but friend. We accidentally prevent our Gabite from evolving into Garchomp during some team prep, which felt absolutely splendid at the time, and then challenge Caitlin's buddy to a battle.
He has an ENTEI? Why does he have an ENTEI? What the fuck?
Before we start, I just want to say that the music for this fight absolutely slaps. I was bopping my head to this tune the entire time. Anyways, we lead with Fortress to set up an iron defense that we can stay in and set up longer. We set up 2 Toxic Spikes and a Stealth Rock as per usual while living on 2 HP like an absolute legend, then swap into Crobat, which unfortunately gets hit by the random move Psycho Cut, then takes it out with a Wing Attack. Alakazam comes out, so we go to Feraligatr for the Psychic immunity, then Rotom to hit it with 2 Shadow Balls. ENTEI comes out next, which tries to extreme speed us, so we go to Feraligatr and start setting up since this ENTEI can't really touch us. After ENTEI ticks out to Poison, we kill the incoming Staraptor with a Night Slash, then Metagross, and then finally Empoleon to wrap up the fight with a clean 0 death tally. Caitlin descends into a psychotic episode after watching her hubby get shown up by a kid, and we get some tea for our troubles? After that, we head all the way over to Canalave City where we meet up with Barry. Rotom burns the Staraptor and then Fortress does the usual setup while almost getting killed by a critical hit Double Edge, which Staraptor kills itself with. Arcanine comes in to try to extreme speed us, so we go to Garchomp for some rough skin damage and then kill it with an EQ. Azumarill comes in next, so we go to Crobat on the incoming Ice Punch instead of letting it hit Garchomp.
Crobat here. I retract my statement. You know, if I had Crossboy though, might actually kill. Or we can crit. That also works just as well, I guess.
We needed either a flinch or a crit to not sack Crobat there, and luckily we got the RNG that we needed. Heracross comes in, which we can just kill with a Wing Attack, and then pivot around Torterra until it kills itself with a recoil from Wood Hammer, nearly losing Rotom in the process. Snorlax comes out, so we send in Heracross to knock off the leftovers, and then finish it off with a close combat, winning us the fight.
That crit for Crobat actually saved its ass. It was dead 100% otherwise.
Iron Island is our next stop, where we meet Riley, who of course needs to test our strength before we can actually go into the mines. Something that I was totally unaware of before actually talking to him.
Why can't we just go together and you can give me your right? What the hell was that? Why did he like tweak the fuck out? You guys see that? Why did he tweak out?
We burn his Absol, then go to Fortress to set up the Triforce of Hazards, eventually switching to Rotom to finish it off with a Thunderbolt. Metagross comes in, which we also burn as it sets up an Agility, then go to Garchomp, who's still faster, and buries it in an EQ. Salamence comes in and intimidates us, and we're left at a fork in the road. We do still kill with Dragon Rush even at -1, but it's only a 75% chance to actually hit. Salamence can also kill us with a Dragon Rush, but again, it's only a 75% chance to hit. Garchomp is still faster, so I decide to leave it up to my odds to miss over the AI's chances to miss.
Oh, don't want to leave it up to me missing or him missing? Me missing. You can never miss. It's just that easy.
Ursaring comes in next, which tries to play rough us, so we swap to Fortress, then back to Garchomp on the incoming Strength. After more poison and rough skin damage, we can simply kill with EQ, which brings out Slacking next. Thankfully, this is still a truant Slacking, so we go to Flygon on the incoming Hammer Arm, hit it with an EQ, fly up on its attacking turn to avoid damage, then finish it off with Fly plus poison damage once it lands. All that's left is Lucario, and we're left with another fork in the road. After calculations, there are 5 rolls of Meteor Mash that kill me and 11 that don't. My EQ is only a 12.5% chance to one-shot, but it's the best odds that I currently have, as switching just loses too much tempo.
A 12.5% chance to kill. Well, the best odds we have. Hit the range. You know you want to. Close. Don't hit his range. Oh, that's unfortunate.
We pick up a Mawile as our Iron Island encounter, have Rotom survive on 1 HP after Sandstorm damage, team up with Riley to beat 2 Galactic Grunts at the end of the cave, then finally head back to Canlay to challenge Byron's Steel Gym. The plan yet again was to abuse the opposing lead Pokemon to set up a sweeper.
We set up Dragon and Swords Dances on Feraligatr before taking out Bronzong with Brick Break. Magnezone comes in next, which we also just kill with a single Brick Break, but then comes Aggron. I had Aggron coming out way later in this fight, so this throws a wrench in my plan because of its sturdy ability, which prevents it from being one-shot. I decide to go to Garchomp as it will put it into range of being killed by Rough Skin after an EQ. Steelix comes out next, so we go back to Feraligatr to get an Intimidate off, then to Rotom to Will-O-Wisp it. We go to Kingler directly after on a missed Stone Edge from the Steelix, but Steelix has one more trick up its sleeve.
It's awkward. Okay. Oh, he might be dead.
After getting Kamikazed on, Fortress comes out, which we go to Heracross for on the incoming Gyro Ball.
If it comes to it, I will zap the face. That's a lot of damage. That's fucking crazy, dude.
I don't really have anything that I can switch in at this point with Stealth Rocks and Spikes set up around me, so I throw out a CC to do some damage as Heracross bites the Steel Ball. Garchomp comes in and gets an EQ off as even more hazards get set up before Byron full restores. I forgot to replenish my PP before this fight after the gym trainers, so Garchomp runs out of EQ PP as Toxic Spikes now get set up. Thankfully, Dragonclaw still kills from here, but we're in a really bad spot now. My only healthy Pokemon at this point is my own Fortress, but with its only attacking move being Gyro Ball, it can't really do anything. I set up 3 Iron Defenses since it's the last stand scenario, but as you'll see, our Gyro Balls don't do nearly enough damage to take out the Bastiodon. Rotom comes in to get a burn off so we can at least be doing some consistent damage to this thing, then Thunderbolts it as we get Toxiced. Bastiodon protects on the next turn as part of its Toxic Stall strat, and after Leftovers heal, Thunderbolt no longer kills from this range without a crit. The only other option that we have is to launch a Thunder, but Thunder is only 70% accuracy outside of Rain. The entire run is hanging by a thread here. If we miss this Thunder, the run is over.
I need this to hit. And this needs to kill. Nice.
Okay. This is why Rotom is the GOAT. I never doubted him for a single second. He's been carrying my ass this entire run. After we get our Mind Badge, we head over to the lake that Team Galactic set the bomb off in. We fight Saturn in the central cave, but honestly, nothing worth mentioning happened in this fight, so I'm just gonna skip it. With Saturn defeated, we have to go all the way back to Lake Verity, where Mars is causing trouble, who we also absolutely demolish. Same thing as before though, nobody even came close to dying in this fight, so I'm not gonna bother showing it to you guys. We pick up our next few encounters being Magikarp, Finneon, and Tentacool, then start our trek up to Snowpoint City. We encounter a Snorunt on the city borders, but accidentally electrocuted a little too hard, so no Snorunt for us. Once we arrive in Snowpoint, Team Galactic sets off another bomb, and then we have to do battle with 2 Ace Trainers outside of the Snowpoint Temple. Surely nothing will go wrong in this battle, right guys? That one really sucked since Fortress was my only setup Pokemon, but with every down comes an up, and we encounter a Steelix inside of the temple immediately afterwards to fill its place. We meet Candice and Maylene in the basement next to Regigigas, who they calm down with some kind of energy, voodoo magic stuff or something. I don't really know what they're up to, honestly. We lose our Ambipom to a gym trainer's cloister, but honestly I'm not too bummed out about that one since he was mostly just fodder anyways. And then we finally reach the Ice-type gym leader, Candice.
Candice, dick.
She leads Abomasnow, so I lead Gyarados, who I taught Rain Dance to get rid of the hail in this fight. We switch to Rotom on the incoming Wood Hammer, and then Empoleon on the Blizzard that ends up missing. We trade blows with EQ and Flash Cannon, and Abomasnow survives on just a sliver of HP. We switch to Rotom on the incoming EQ, then finish it off with a Thunderbolt. Next up is Glaceon, which we go back to Empoleon for on the Blizzard, then Clefable on the Earth Power. Clefable does no Flamethrower, but because of the rain that we set up earlier, it's not a clean one-shot anymore, and we get taken out by another Blizzard before we can seal the deal. Gyarados comes in and we revenge kill it with Waterfall, which brings in Frostlass. We pivot to Rotom on the incoming Thunderbolt, and then get a clean kill with 2 super effective Shadow Balls as its Blizzard misses. Weavile is next, which we burn, then go to Feraligatr for the Intimidate as we both set up Swords Dance. All the Weavile has that can hurt us is Aerial Ace, which with Intimidate and Burn is nearly non-existent damage, even with a Swords Dance. The reason we had to set up so much is because we plan to take out the rest of Candice's team with Superpower, a move that lowers our attack and defense by 1 stage after each use. We take out the Weavile with a 651% damage output Superpower, then Mamoswine, and then finally Walrein even through with Choppleberry, giving us our penultimate gym badge, the Icicle Badge. With the Icicle Badge, we can now use Rock Climb, which we needed to get to the final lake. We find Jupiter shoving snow down Barry's shirt, who flees the scene immediately afterwards. We head all the way back to Veilstone City and infiltrate the Team Galactic HQ, where Cyrus is giving a speech to all the grunts. Eventually, we make our way to his personal room and confront him, but during planning, I thought that this was the Saturn fight, not the Cyrus fight.
Well, you know, I thought you were...
We immediately switch into Steelix, who walls Crobat insanely hard and takes out the bat with a Stone Edge. Houndoom comes out next, we go to Gyarados on the Flamethrower, then kill with a clean Waterfall. Magnezone comes in and we recharge with Rotom on the Thunderbolt, burning it in the process, then go to Garchomp afterwards and get a clean kill with EQ. Next up is Weavile. We go to Feraligatr, who Dragon Dances once and then superpowers the Weavile for 4 times damage. Then lastly is Honchkrow, which we go to Gyarados to Intimidate, then kill with a final Thunderbolt from Rotom. Crisis averted, ladies and gentlemen. Crisis averted. Cyrus has a bit of trauma spiraling before giving us a Master Ball for some reason, and then we end up in the basement where we find the real Saturn fight. We set up a Dragon Dance and then take out Bronzong with an Aqua Tail, but since Toxicroak comes out next, we're forced to swap out into Steelix.
Basically.
Looking back on this footage, I'm not entirely sure why I didn't switch to Gyarados here, as not only do we resist the cross chop, but we also would have intimidated the Toxicroak as well. We go into Rotom, who burns the frog and then takes it out with a couple Thunderbolts. Octillery comes out next, which we also just kill with a Thunderbolt, then go into Feraligatr on the Rhyperior to intimidate it. We shoot off an Aqua Tail, but by calculations, it's not enough to kill. I can't really switch anybody else on my team into a super effective Stone Edge here, so we have to salute our Gator here as he goes down. Feraligatr put in so much work and was my only real setup sweeper, so it definitely sucks to lose him in this fight. We go into Gyarados, who revenge kills with Waterfall, then the Magmortar, and then finally the Alakazam with a critical hit to finish the fight. After beating Saturn, we start the trek up Mount Coronet. We eventually arrive at Spear Pillar, where Cyrus's grand plan is going to unfold, but we're stopped by both Mars and Jupiter before we can confront him. Barry somehow knows that all this is happening and finds his way up here, so we get to team up with him against the 2 commanders. This is probably by far going to be the toughest fight of the game so far, and let me tell you why. Normally the most that this fight could be is a 6 vs 6, but Renegade Platinum does something different and turns this into a 12v12 double battle. Each trainer gets to bring a full team of 6, and let me just say from my experience that not only is this an endurance test, but things can get very chaotic very quickly. This fight is a rather long one, so I'll try to shorten it up a little bit, but keep in mind it is a 12v12, so just bear with me. We set up a Reflect with Xatu as Staraptor almost kills one of the Crobats with Brave Bird. We go to Empoleon on the Sludge Bomb as the 1 HP Crobat Brave Birds us and dies. Staraptor Brave Birds the remaining Crobat, taking out in 1 hit, and we're already up 2 Pokemon. Electivire and Gastrodon come out next, so we go to Gyarados predicting a Mud Bomb from Gastrodon. This switch may seem risky given that Electivire can still Thunder Punch Empoleon, but since it would see a kill on Staraptor, the AI will always go for a kill if it sees one, leaving us safe to switch. Staraptor Brave Birds the Electivire, taking it out in a single hit again before falling to Gastrodon's Ice Beam. Barry sends out Torterra and Mars sends out Bronzong, and I decide to stay in since neither of these Pokemon really threaten me. We Waterfall the Bronzong, which does about half HP, as Barry Woodhammers the Gastrodon and kills it in a single hit.
You are dead. Needy dead. Bye-bye.
Bronzong sets up Stealth Rocks and Tangrowth comes out next. We both attack the Bronzong, which takes it out, and Tangrowth Focus Blasts Torterra and gets a crit, taking it out as well. Yanmega and Arcanine come out next, and Yanmega hits us with a Hurricane. Arcanine takes out the Yanmega with a Flare Blitz, and Tangrowth gets us into the red with a Giga Drain. Perugly comes in next, so I go to Aerodactyl and get faked out, as Arcanine Flare Blitzes and kills the Tangrowth. Skuntank comes out next, and I Brave Bird the Perugly, which isn't quite enough to kill. Arcanine gets Body Slammed and goes down, and I get hit with a Gunk Shot. Heracross comes out and I take out the Perugly with a second Brave Bird, but get killed in return by a Play Rough. Empoleon and Kangaskhan come out next, and I just decide that Surfing is the best option here.
Heracross goes down to a crunch, and we take out the Skunk Tank with another Surf. Azumarill and Sableye come out next, and we have a turn where everyone just misses their moves or flinches. We take out Kangaskhan with a Thunderbolt, and then Sableye with a Play Rough. All that's left is another Bronzong at this point, which we can clean up with a Thunderbolt and a Crunch from Snorlax. Cyrus does his evil shenanigans with the red chain before the Lake Guardians step in and are like, "Stop! You violated the law!" Giratina shows up and Aura Farms on Cyrus for a moment before dragging him into the Distortion world. Cynthia shows up and is like, "Are you ready to save the world?" I'm not, actually. I need some major prep time for the hell that is the 2 Distortion World Cyrus fights. We make it through the Distortion world and eventually end up at the end where Cyrus is waiting for us. There are 2 different fights in the Distortion world, and both of them are back to back. The first being a fight against both Palkia and Dialga at the same time in a double battle. They both outlevel you by 10 levels, by the way. Then you're immediately put into a battle against Cyrus's real team. From what I've heard, this was going to be the toughest spot we found ourselves in yet, as it's basically impossible to team build for both the legendary fight and the normal fight. We lead with Empoleon and Xatu. Empoleon is only here because it baits Earth Power from Dialga and is still a fairly good lead against the second team. We immediately switched out for Rotom and set up a light screen on Xatu. As we hoped, Dialga Earth Powers the immune Rotom and Palkia Spatial Ren Xatu, who luckily dodges a crit. Next up, we need Rotom to hit 2 Will-O-Wisps back to back, which he's notorious for missing. Burn won't reduce either Pokemon's damage output, but it is required for the Earthquake ranges a few turns later. We swap Xatu for Empoleon, who unfortunately takes an Aura Sphere even though Xatu quad resisted it, as well as a Spatial Ren which doesn't crit again, and we land our first burn on Palkia. Not a perfect start, but still pretty good. We swap Empoleon for Gyarados, hoping for another Earth Power which Palkia uses, as well as an Aura Sphere from Dialga which we also resist before hitting our second burn. Nice. Our light screen will still last another 3 turns, which is all we need at most, and nothing that the 2 legendaries can hit us with poses a threat to these 2 specially defensive Pokemon outside of a Spatial Rend and Roar of Time double crit. We use our first EQ in Thunderbolt, getting both legendaries below half as Dialga tries to Earth Power the Gyarados for some reason, and we take another Spatial Rend which doesn't crit. Then we use our second EQ, which because of Burn Chip, takes out both Dialga and Palkia, netting us 0 deaths. That was only the first half, however, as Cyrus isn't done with us quite yet. We don't get to change our lead, so this is why we led with Empoleon in the first battle. Empoleon is the only Pokemon that can wall this pretty effectively, so we just start by throwing a Rock Climb at the Crobat, which does about half its HP.
Switches. Oh, you are dead now. I cannot swap you out, my friend. Rest in pepperonis. Okay, there's a chance. Spam Skull and hope for a burn. Hit yourself. Hit yourself. Yes? Huge.
There's a chance. There's a chance.
And the burn.
No!
We need you to hit yourself again, though. We do not tank a Thunderbolt. Hit yourself. Hit yourself. And 07 and Empoleon. I was not expecting the switch. And crit just for good measure.
I'm still not entirely sure why the AI decided to switch here, so maybe someone can let me know down in the comments? I'd actually be really curious to find out. We go into Swellow to Brave Bird Revenge Kill, which brings out Weavile next, which we actually would have one-shot with U-Turn had it not been holding a Focus Sash. We go into Gyarados, as it's at least neutral to the incoming Icicle Crash, but it misses entirely, so we get a switch for free. We kill Weavile with a Waterfall, then go into Rotom on the Haunter Crow's Thunder Wave, killing it with a Thunderbolt on the next turn. Gyarados comes in next, which we also just snap from existence with a Thunderbolt, and the half HP Crobat. All that's left is Houndoom, so we go to Garchomp and finish it off with an EQ. Cynthia makes sure that we're all healed up afterwards, we catch Giratina, and Cyrus just decides that he's going to live here now, I guess?
I don't know how you plan to get out, by the way. This is the only exit, homie.
We jump through the portal and end up back in the real world, where we encounter a Solrock as our next encounter.
Won't get it, that works too, I guess.
We pick up a Wingull on the way to Sunyshore and find Volkner whining about how nobody gives him a thrill anymore, so we should meet him at the gym and reignite his passion, or something. After some planning, we make it through the gym trainers unscathed and end up at Volkner. I personally love the strategy that I came up with for the tail end of his team, and I'm hoping that you guys do too. He leads with Jolteon, which we take out with 2 EQs after his Focus Sash, which brings out Luxray. We go into Tentacruel on the Ice Fang, which ends up critting us before hitting Luxray with a Sludge Bomb that poisons it. We need a Hydro Pump to kill from this range, but luckily we don't miss and take out the Luxray. Raichu comes out next, so we go into Garchomp on the Thunderbolt, then kill it with another EQ after it misses Focus Blast. Electivire comes in next, and it's the last Pokemon before we need to set up our endgame strat. We dodge a freeze on the Ice Punch on Dusknoir, then go to Rotom on the Wild Charge. We burn the Electivire and then get frozen on the next Ice Punch, but we don't need Rotom for the rest of this fight, so it doesn't really matter. We go back into Dusknoir, who eats an Ice Punch on the switch in, but doesn't get frozen. We're slower than the Electivire, so we need to dodge a Wild Charge crit, which luckily we do, and then set up the move Gravity. We swap to Garchomp, who eats an EQ, but Electivire is dead after burn and Life Orb damage. All that's left are Volkner's last two Pokemon, a Rotom Wash and a Rotom Heat, both of which have the ability Levitate. With Gravity, however, Levitate gets nullified and allows flying and levitating Pokemon to be hit by ground-type moves. So, while the Gravity is active, we simply double EQ on Garchomp, winning us the fight and our final gym badge with it. There's another new fight that we have to take on before we can head to Victory Road though, and that's with some woman named Dahlia. We lead Gyarados and take out her Blaziken with a crit waterfall after breaking its focus sash the previous turn. ZAPDOS comes in next, so we go to Garchomp for on the Thunderbolt, but miss our first Stone Edge as it sets up Light Screen. Thankfully we hit the second turn, which isn't quite enough to kill, but we finish off the legendary bird with a Dragon Claw on the next turn. Togekiss comes in, so we pivot to Tentacruel on the Moonblast, then hit it with a Sludge Bomb, which honestly does pretty laughable damage due to the light screen, and then get hit with a Hurricane. Nothing else that I have really goes toe-to-toe with this thing, so we get another Sludge Bomb off before dying to another Hurricane. We revenge kill with Thunderbolt from Rotom, and then she sends in Dusknoir. We go to Gyarados on the Ice Punch, but end up getting frozen. This puts us in a really awkward spot, so I go to Swellow on the Thunder Punch, which puts us in the red, then go to Rotom expecting another Thunder Punch, but get hit with a Drain Punch instead. We burn the Dusknoir, but I forget it's holding a Lumberry, so I repeat burn on the next turn. We shoot off a Shadow Ball and dodge another freeze on an Ice Punch, putting Dusknoir in the red, before killing with a final Shadow Ball. Medicham comes out, so we go to Xatu, but it does more damage neutrally than I expect, so I set up a Reflect, then pivot to my frozen Gyarados. Since being hit with a Fire-type move will thaw a frozen Pokemon, I saw it as the perfect opportunity to get my Gyarados back in the fight. We set up a couple Dragon Dances on the resisted Fire Punches, then kill the Waterfall. Ludicolo is last up, which we just barely don't kill with an EQ. We get put into the red with a Life Orb Giga Drain, then fire off another EQ as she full restores. Luckily we're faster, so we just kill with another EQ afterwards, winning us the final pre-Victory Road fight.
No money. Wow.
After surfing for what feels like forever, we finally make it to the entrance to Victory Road where we catch a Corsola, and slightly down Waterfall we catch a Wailmer. We catch a Machoke as our Victory Road encounter and start working our way through the trainers. Eventually we get deep enough and get stopped by someone named Marley. This person was not listed on the trainer guide that I was following, so not only did I not know that she was coming, I also had no idea what her team consisted of or what coverage moves that they had.
I don't know who you are. You're not in my list.
We immediately U-turned with Swellow into what I hoped was Thunderbolt on Rotom, which ended up being correct. We kill the Thunderbolt of our own, which then brings out Weavile. I try to go for a burn but end up missing and take a super effective Icicle Crash which nearly insta-kills me. I go to Wailord, which was my current HM slave and also my fodder swap just in case things got dicey. We take a crunch and then go for a dive to try to do some chip damage, and then the AI switches for some reason. Again, someone please tell me the reason this happened if they can. I don't know what the hell happened. Regardless, it lets me get a free Toxic onto the incoming Sceptile. We swap to Gyarados, who takes a Dragon Pulse and then an Energy Ball as it retaliates with a boosted Avalanche, killing the starter Pokemon. Electrode comes in next, and I want to go to Rotom, but Rotom is so low that if it goes for a random move somehow, there's no way that it survives. Garchomp is the safer play, and we swap in on the Thunderbolt, then kill with EQ after it sets up a light screen. Weavile comes back out, and I wasn't sure if Garchomp actually outsped it or not, so I go into my fodder swap and let Wailord die. I get a clean switch into Swellow, who I use Fly with as Marley full restores in order to set up my Toxic Orb for Guts. Thankfully, Guts boosted Fly kills Weavile next turn, or we would have definitely have died to Icicle Crash. Arcanine comes in next, so we U-turn to Garchomp, who eats a Flare Blitz, then kills with EQ. All that's left is Crobat, which we stay in on to kill with Stone Edge after some rough skin damage.
How many trainers are there now? I can't. I can't guess. I can't play it risky. I just don't know. Like, are you gonna have an ice type move or what? Like, I can't tell. There's more. There's still more, bro. I don't want to be here. Get me out. Oh my god. Like, get me out. Do I have to go this way? Like, what am I looking at on my screen? Like, am I supposed to be here? Is there a reason I'm here? Wow, an ultra ball. Incredible, man. I'm so happy. I see why they gave you the level cap of 70. It's just... every trainer in the game exists here. Like, surely there's still more, bro. Like, is there a reason I'm going here?
Eventually, we make it to the end of Victory Road with Marley, and we're finally free from Purgatory. Or so I thought.
Awesome.
After going through Dollar Tree Victory Road on Route 224, we meet Dawn for a final time who wants to battle. Her team is the exact same as the previous time we fought her, and our only loss was Abomasnow, which was HM Slave Death Fodder anyways, so I'm not going to bother showing you guys this fight. After all is said and done, we finally make it to the Elite Four, where we have to face off with Barry one final time. Similarly to Dawn, Barry's team hasn't changed at all since we last fought him. Half of this fight is actually me just trying to get through Barry's Snorlax, who decided he wanted to spam Curse, and nobody else even came close to dying apart from Gyarados on a critical hit Ice Punch.
Stop! Holy shit, man.
So again, this fight isn't really worth showing to you guys. After getting all of our gym badges screened, we do a final bit of team building and decide on the following team. Mawile, Gyarados, Swellow, Garchomp, Rotom, and Crobat. Mawile is mostly here to help deal with Cynthia's Garchomp, but it also has a phenomenal typing for Generation 4 being Steel Fairy, so it's super easy to switch into most moves. She has Intimidate, and I decided to give her a King's Rock. Gyarados is the second half of dealing with Cynthia's Garchomp, but it also hits hard, turned out quite specially bulky, and is still quite fast. She also has Intimidate and is holding Leftovers. Rotom has been the MVP of the game by far, so it honestly felt kind of weird to not have it on the team at this point. But its main mission was to hinder those strong physical attackers, and it's also quite specially bulky as well. It still has Motor Drive and is holding a Razor Claw. Swellow hasn't seen much use this run because I haven't been using it to its full potential, but we picked up the Facade TM finally, and it's basically my emergency trump card that I can switch to after I sack something for 2 to 3 guaranteed kills with Choice Scarf Guts boosted Facade. He's also holding a Scope Lens just in case those nuclear facades aren't enough on their own. Garchomp is, well, it's Garchomp, and she's holding a plain old Muscle Band. Finally, Crobat is great for baiting moves into our immunities and resistances, as well as being very fast and having good coverage moves. She still has her Inner Focus, and is holding a Life Orb. Something that you need to keep in mind for the Renegade Platinum Elite Four is that they don't just have one static team, rather 4 meticulously handcrafted teams that, while similar, all pose different threats and challenges. Obviously, you don't have to fight all 4 teams, that would just be absurd, but there's no way of telling what you're going to be up against until you're actually in the fight. All you can reliably do is find your best lead against all 4 of the teams, and the rest pretty much just plays out on a turn-by-turn basis. Aaron can either lead with a Yanmega, Venomoth, Masquerain, or Scyther, so no matter which team he ends up having, Swellow is the best choice here. He ends up leading with Yanmega, which we just immediately kill with Facade. Next up is our Maldo, which we totally tactically switched to Mawile instead of U-turning for to get the Intimidate off. It misses its Stone Edge on the switch in and we hit it with an Iron Head, which makes it flinch, allowing us to Iron Head again next turn for a clean kill with no damage. Drapion comes out next, we go to Gyarados on the EQ, then back to Mawile on the Cross Poison. We do this cycle 2 more times until Drapion is at -6 attack, then knock off its Scope Lens. With the Scope Lens gone, we go to Garchomp on the EQ, then kill it with our own EQ. Next up is Heracross, which we go to Gyarados for on the CC, before bouncing up and missing our first bounce next turn. Thankfully, we hit the second bounce and Heracross goes down clean. Vespiquen is out next, so we go to Mawile to knock off its Leftovers before freezing it with an Ice Punch. I go to Rotom to start Thunderbolting it, but it gets a turn 1 Thaw and full heals with Heal Order. We burn it to get some consistent damage going, and we get hit with a Hurricane that does next to nothing to us. We trade a turn of Weather attacks before finally taking out the Bee with a final Bolt. All that's left is Scissor, which we go to Mawile for as we get Bullet Punched, then knock off its Life Orb as we get Iron Headed. Finally, we switch to Garchomp, who finishes the first Elite Four member's final Pokemon off with an EQ.
It was clean.
Bertha is up next, but we've got a Gyarados and there's nothing that she can really do about it. I lead with Mawile and she ends up leading with Tyranitar. This Tyranitar is holding a Choice Scarf, so once it decides on a move, it's locked in and can't use anything else. We can really abuse this since it sees EQ as its best option here, so we can just go into Gyarados and get a free maximum setup. We Dragon Dance 6 times just for good measure as it helplessly spams EQ, before taking it, Rhyperior, Mamoswine, Dugtrio, Swampert, and Claydol all down with a single waterfall each. This is definitely the easiest team in battle that we'll have throughout the Elite Four, for sure.
You tried your best.
Next up is the Fire-type Elite Four member Flint. Ideally, we don't get one of his two teams that leads with a Drought Pokemon, but unfortunately, we get the Ninetales team. Still very doable though, just a slightly different strategy needed. We get hit with a Solar Beam as we immediately take out Ninetales with an EQ, which brings out Magcargo. This thing is holding a Focus Sash, so we can't one-shot it, but we stay in and use another EQ as we get crit by another Solar Beam. Flint heals, so we use another EQ before finishing off the Snail. Arcanine comes in next, so we go to Garchomp on the Wild Charge, take a Flare Blitz, then kill with another EQ. Charizard comes in next, so we go to Mawile on the Dragon Pulse, and then get an absolutely free kill since it's holding Choice Specs. Magmortar comes in, so we go to Garchomp since Gyarados is a little too low to take a Fire Blast.
Could also missing would be really cool. Or you can just get crit.
That's not a crit. Holy shit.
Yeah, dude, that definitely would have killed Gyarados.
Holy shit.
After nearly getting burnt to a crisp, I need to run some calculations. I outspeed the Magmortar, but I'm not sure if EQ will kill from here. Thankfully we do, but only due to our decent attack IVs and EVs. Lopunny comes out and we switch to Mawile as Garchomp cools off in the shade. We switch again into Rotom on the Blaze Kick, then take a Mega Kick and give Flint a taste of his own medicine by burning the bunny. Finally, we go into Crobat, who finishes off the rabbit with a Life Orb boosted Brave Bird.
Nice crit where it wasn't needed.
Last up is Lucian, who specializes in Psychic types. We lead with Swellow since U-turn hits all of Lucian's leads for super effective damage, and no matter what he chooses, we can go into something safer.
Now we get to choose what comes out.
We choose to go into Rotom, which brings out Girafarig, who I forget is part normal type.
Oh, it's a normal type. I'm an idiot.
After using the Shadow Ball on it, which did nothing, we tank another Psychic and launch a Thunderbolt.
You tank one more. Unless you get crit. Never punished, baby.
Rotom, buddy, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to acquaint you with the Grim Reaper and then just pull you back at the last second saying, just kidding. After surviving on 1 HP, we finish off the Girafarig with a Thunderbolt, which brings in Starmie. We switch to Mawile since it's my safest switch on a random move, then into Crobat who dodges a Hydro Pump. We U-turn into Gyarados as Starmie launches a Psychic, then bounce up as it misses a Thunderbolt. Admittedly, I was making some plays for content at this point, and I genuinely thought that Gyarados was dead when seeing Thunderbolt pop up. But I guess Thunderbolt only hits flying Pokemon? We paralyze the Starmie when bounce lands and finish it off with an EQ. Next up is Medicham, so we go into Garchomp on the Thunder Punch that is now locked into via Choice Scarf and then kill with a crit EQ. Gallade comes out, so we go back to Gyarados on the Psycho Cut, then kill with a crit bounce.
Another crit. Hello? Who's playing?
Am I at the slots at the casino?
Last up is Exeggutor, which if you guess we kill with another crit bounce, you'd be wrong. Just normal bounce this time, but a win nonetheless. After sweeping through the Elite Four without losing a single Pokemon, we're standing at the absolute peak of this run. Every decision, every route, every close call, it's all been leading to this one last fight. Cynthia. If you've played any Pokemon game in your life, you already know why this moment hits different. She's not just a champion, she's the champion. The one known for ending Nuzlockes, ruining childhoods, and reminding everyone that her Garchomp does not care about your hopes and dreams. And in Renegade Platinum, she's even worse. We've still got our entire squad intact, all 6 of them standing after everything this brutal game threw at us. Crobat, who's been with us since the very beginning ever since we caught her back in the Ravaged Path. Rotom, the MVP of this run that's been with us since Eterna Forest and has carried its weight 100 times over. Gyarados, the little fish that could that we didn't pick up until Celestic Town. Garchomp, the beautiful blessing we didn't deserve from Wayward Cave. Mawile, the secret key from Iron Island that I didn't think would be standing with us at the pinnacle. and Swellow, the wasted potential that's been like a nuclear hellhound on a chain, just waiting for the chance to drop the weighted anklets. Here we stand, our first attempt, a full, beautiful team, no deaths to any of the Elite Four. Just one final hurdle remains. Whether we win or lose, everything comes down to this final battle.
Oh. Okay. Let's do this.
Cynthia ends up leading with Spiritomb, which is the one team that I didn't want to face. If I get burnt on Mawile, my plan for Cynthia's Garchomp completely falls apart. Luckily, it decides to go for the less annoying Confuse Ray, however, as we hit it with a Play Rough, which isn't quite enough to kill. Cynthia full restores as we break through the confusion, and we just barely don't kill with a second Play Rough. Third time's a charm, however, and Spiritomb finally goes down. Cynthia's ace Garchomp comes out next, however, so we switch into our plan with Gyarados and Mawile. Garchomp wants to EQ Mawile, which Gyarados is immune to with its flying type. It will then want to Stone Edge Gyarados, which Mawile isn't immune to, but still resists with its steel typing, and will be taking the hit at -2 attack. At -2, we can take 2 EQs and still survive assuming no crit, which will allow us to take out this monster of a Pokemon. Garchomp can still crit us, however, so we want to dance this dance as little as possible. We swap back and forth until it's at -2 attack, then Ice Punch it for substantially less damage than I was expecting. I guess that's the power of the Yache Berry, huh? Since it's Swords Danced, we have to go back into the loop to bring it back to -2 attack, then tank an EQ as we finish it off. With Garchomp out of the way, the rest of Cynthia's team should be a piece of cake. Roserade comes out next, which we switch to Crobat for, expecting a Leaf Storm, but get Dazzling Gleamed instead. Not what I was expecting, but at least it's still a resist, just not a 4x resist. We outspeed next turn and obliterate it with a Life Orb boosted Brave Bird, bringing out Togekiss. This wants to Thunder Wave me, so I switch to Rotom, who gets a free speed boost. We fire off a Thunderbolt, which does insane damage considering how bulky Togekiss is, and tank a Moonblast. One more Thunderbolt next turn is enough to bring it down, and all that's left is the incoming Milotic, then Lucario. I switch to Gyarados, who unfortunately gets hit with Hypnosis, but wakes up immediately and then Dragon Dances twice. One EQ isn't enough to kill Milotic, so we fire off 3 since Cynthia still has her second full restore, then her last Pokemon comes out. Lucario. Since we set up 2 Dragon Dances on Milotic, this Lucario's casket has already been made, we just need to nail it shut. One more EQ for the road, and we've done it.
And that is Renegade Platinum. Oh, it feels so good. We didn't even lose any Mons either. The whole thing. We played so clean.
That was excellent. Truly an outstanding battle. You gave the support your Pokemon needed to maximize their power, and you guided them with certainty to secure victory. You have both passion and calculating coolness. Together, you and your Pokemon can overcome any challenge that may come your way. Those are the impressions that I got from our battle. I'm glad I got to take part in the crowning of Sinnoh's new champion. Come with me. We'll take the lift.
Rowan shows up one last time for some reason, because I guess he just knew we were here and had to have the perfect entrance timing. Then we finally get to record our name and Pokemon in the Hall of Fame to forever be remembered.
The homies. Dude, this Rotom was like the MVP of the game. Huge.
And that's it. That's Renegade Platinum. First ever Nuzlocke, first ever attempt, and we managed to pull through. Honestly, I was expecting this to be good, but that was way more fun than I expected it to be. I didn't want to jump into a super casual vanilla game, so this ended up being the perfect middle ground. It wasn't vanilla levels of easy, but it also wasn't run and bun levels of difficult either. It was tough for sure and required a lot of planning, but it never felt unfair. Like any Nuzlocke, you have to plan your teams, respect the important fights, but the game gives you enough tools that you're never completely stuck if you're not already destined to lose. If you're someone who's been wanting to dip your toes into harder Pokemon games without going full Kaizo mode, I'd highly recommend giving Renegade Platinum a shot. It hits that sweet spot of not being too easy or difficult, and feels extremely rewarding when all the pieces fall into place. This run was a blast to play, and honestly, even more fun to put together in video format, so for the 3 people that probably ended up making it this far, thank you so much for watching through until the end. I really appreciate it. I have a whole other channel update video that should release at the same time this one does that highlights this more in depth, but if you have any ideas for what I should try Nuzlocking next, challenges you want to see, or just video content in general, feel free to throw them my way. I look at every single comment and will always reply. One final thing before we wrap up, a huge shout out to Zame for allowing anybody to use their beautiful music in their videos. All of the music that you heard overlaying the gameplay was done by them, and you should definitely check them out. They make some really good stuff, hitting you with some of those soothing ear serenades. Not only will their channel be linked in the description, but each individual track used as well. Here's hoping that this can be the first of many new experiences, so until the next one, take care out there, guys.